All right. Welcome. Welcome everybody. Um I have some really good stuff today. I think I have some really good stuff. Um this notion of cuz I've been really thinking, the haunting question, is there ever such thing in my philosophy of timing? Is there ever such thing as the right time? When is the right time to do such things? So, I started really thinking, what do we mean? What do we really mean when somebody says, when is the right time? Um, and what I had argued previously is that the nature of when, this sort of concept of when, is sort of something that's impossible to capture. Like you cannot make a division on when because the when sort of just infinitely extends itself. And I've kind of argued how that happens through the parable of the Chinese farmer, where it's very difficult to sort of give a determinate when. Um, but what I want to argue is that right timing or right time, specifically right time, the right time to do something is actually always there. And my original formulation of timing was time plus action. So if we just take the assumption that we're always within time and there's always action that is happening, I'm moving my arms, people are driving their cars right now. These are all things that can occur. So what is happening, right? What is happening is that there's always action in time. So there, in essence, there's always a right time and a right timing happening going on. But what I'm trying to extrapolate when we talk, so this is the distinction I'm trying to make here, is that right time is actually not a matter of when, because when is a statement of measure. Like, for example, just imagine like when we've seen this all the time with going to like parties where somebody says, "Okay, I'm gonna cut you a piece of cake. Just tell me when." Um, so as to determine like the size of the piece, right? Or when the guy from Olive Garden is pouring your Parmesan cheese, and he's like, "All right, tell me when," and you go like, "Okay," it's a statement of measure. Statement of measure. That's the only thing that when can be. Um, so I'm gonna give a example here that I was thinking about. I think it would be a very good example between right time and timing. How do we make a real distinguishment between these two? So, think of a football game, right? Think of a football game. When is it ever the right time to catch the ball or try to catch the ball? Well, the answer is it technically is always the right time to catch the ball or to try to catch the ball. And what I'm playing on is this, even on the defense, even if you're on the defense side, right? Trying to catch the ball would be trying to be the one that intercepts the football, right? So when is it ever the right time to intercept the football? Well, it's always the right time to intercept the football or try to intercept the football. um, Now, some people may argue, well, that's not true. Um, you may want to um, you may want to do something else. It may not be the better time to it may not be the best time to catch the ball, to try to interfere with the ball, right? But you see, the moment that somebody does this or realizes that maybe we should always be trying to intercept the ball, we should be trying to block them from getting past the, whatever 3-yard line or something. And like, who cares if they, catch the ball, right? So what is actually happening is the person is realizing that there is another value that they can achieve in their play, in their football play. So they're giving more value to blocking them instead of trying to intercept the ball. Because maybe intercepting the ball hasn't been working for them, right? It's been failing. Anyway, so maybe it's just better that they stop trying and just focus on the defense, right? But you see, this is a sort of what the person is realizing is that he's starting to see the difference between demand and state, or demand and condition. So, and this is actually funny because this is the indicator for timing. This is the proof for timing. The proof for timing, and I'm using like a sort of mathematical term here, is always position plus condition. Position plus condition, or condition can be sort of substituted for current state, but I like condition because condition will get at it. So position and condition versus demand. So position plus condition versus demand is the indicator for timing as such, or mind state. Mind state works too, but also physical state is going to be a point of contention too. And the reason why I say that is because physical state, and this is why the football example is a perfect example, is that if your players aren't fit for their position, right? So for example, maybe the QB doesn't need to be super buff. Maybe he needs to be very skinny and nimble. This would be a sort of condition for the QB to have, because he's very fast and nimble, like makes him difficult to catch, right? Difficult to kind of like pin down or maybe sack him, right? So in that case, right, if you have a QB player that is very fast and nimble, right, is it always the right time for him to, evade people? Basically, you're setting up the demands for plays, right? You're setting up the conditions for a play to happen, in which this case, because of his condition and the demands that are put on his position, what's going to make him a great player is timing, right? But I will go back to my more original example to make my point more clear. So position plus condition, what does this mean? So think of like a ping pong game, right? A ping pong game is actually very interesting because it's always demanding you a new position. So somebody hits it this way, you got to hit it the other way, right? The ball is sort of demanding, and the way the player throws the ball is demanding a certain position in order for you to hit the ball back, right? And if you don't meet that position, you miss the ball. right? But what's funny is that if you do meet the position and the condition would be like, in this case, your physical fitness, your state of mind. For example, if you haven't been training in endurance, you might not be able to actually get to the other side of the table fast enough because you're starting to get winded, you're starting to get tired. So in this case, you're going to start missing the ping pong balls, and you're going to start missing the timing to hit them. So the timing to hit the ball. So for example, this is the difference between right time and timing, right? It's always the right time to hit the ball back when you're a ping pong player. However, you may miss the time to hit the ball if you're not getting the right timing. The right timing means if you're not meeting the demands of the position and the condition for you to hit the ball back, because it's always the right time to hit the ball back. And this is what I'm trying to get at with time and timing, is that really when we talk about the right time, technically it's always the right time to do something. It's always the right time. And we hear that initially and we go, no, that's not the case. It's not always the right time. No, it is always the right time. But actually what we're referring to when we talk about the right time is actually we're talking about timing, right? We're talking about timing. Um, Timing means that we have realized that we don't meet the position and the condition to do said thing, right? But the capacity to do said thing is always available. That's what I'm trying to say. So that means that the right time, the right time is always available. Um, However, the timing to do said thing is another matter. And what I'm trying to get at when we've been thinking about this, right? When we've been thinking about timing, we have to really be aware of our position and our condition. So position plus condition, and then also what is being demanded to meet said position and condition. And if you can meet all three, what is demanded um, with your position and your condition, then this is what we get as right timing. But in terms of the right time, it's always the right time, so to speak, right? But it's never necessarily the right timing. And I think that's what I'm trying to get at. Now, what's funny about the notion of right time and right timing is that you can actually make it always the right time and right timing. And you see this with players that have really trained themselves to, like, for example, like my ping pong player example, a really good ping pong player, because he's really good, um, he's always basically in sync with the notion of right time and timing, because he's begun to master what is being demanded of his position and condition. And so in essence, he really embodies the notion of right time, meaning that every time he hits the ball, it's always the right time because he's always meeting the positionality and the condition, which is the timing. So the timing is more like the work to meet the right time, because the right time is always happening. Let me see what else. Football player leg kicks ball a certain position at a certain time, take goal. Yes. Yes, that's exactly right. You know, and if, for example, if the football player has like maybe a distracting state of mind, for example, maybe he's going through like a breakup right now, um, it may cause him to miss the ball, right? Because he's actually not focused on the game. He's not meeting the condition to play well in the game, right? Because I think mostly all sports like therapists and coaches all stress like a certain state of mind that you have to cultivate, that you have to have, because then anything that you do is just horrible timing. Anything you do becomes the worst time. But what I'm trying to get at with all of this is that right timing the right time to do something is always happening. It's really a question of it really is a question of timing. Are you in the position? Do you meet the demands of the position and the current state and the state that is demanded? But if you do meet the condition and the position, then it's always going to be the right time, which will basically reproof itself to my original formulation that there's always a right time, but not necessarily the right timing. But the right timing can happen, or the right timing can always happen if and only if you meet the condition and the position that is demanded for the time. So if we don't meet the demanded position and condition, and I'll give a literary example because I like literary examples. For example, if you take a child and you try to make them read Hegel, why is it the wrong time to read Hegel? And just to use my own argument against me, right? Someone would say, well, Javier says that it's always the right time to read Hegel. And I would respond, yes, it's always the right time to read Hegel. However, it may not be the right timing to read Hegel. What does that mean? It means that the child isn't fully developed. He hasn't reached a state of maturity to be able to read. So in this case, Hegel, and so in this case, it's the wrong timing to read Hegel. However, it's always the right time to read Hegel. And it's always the right time to meet Hegel if you're meeting the right timing. So the right time to read Hegel is always available to you. The real question is, do you meet the conditions and the position to read Hegel? And that has to do with timing. And so yeah, that's really the main crux of the whole thing. And I think even if we use my formula in like your own like intimate lives, right? Like, what is it? We like talking about, when is it the right time to kiss the girl? Well, the right time to kiss a girl is always available. The real question is, are the conditions and demands being met in order for the kissing of the girl to happen? And it's funny because if you really pay attention to my formula, condition and position, what happens with most people that are very interested in each other is that they tend to get very close to each other. They tend to get very close to each other's faces, especially when they really want to kiss each other. But if you pay attention to their position, the very fact that they're getting very close, right? They're getting, they're laughing, they're getting very intimate, is already attempting to meet. This is already the process of attempting to meet the position and the condition to which a kiss becomes available. But in my opinion, what I'm arguing when I'm saying that the right time is that the kiss is always available. The question is, do you meet the demands and the condition for said kiss? And really, this has to do with work. It has to do with work. It doesn't have to be like a sort of like physical labor. But what I'm trying to say is that the work is basically what I'm calling trying to meet the conditions and um, the state of mind, the position. Um, so I think if we think of the right time as availability, right, the availability is always there. Um, and I think another example we can give is when a friend says something like, "Hey, man, I'm always there for you," right? So his um his his being there, his offering to always be there for you is a sort of statement of availability, right? But what's funny is that we confuse this statement of availability with timing. So timing would mean like, meaning like, for example, you just barged into your friend's house while he's, having a very intimate conversation with his wife, right? Perhaps they're arguing or something. And then he's like, "Hey man," and you barge in, he's like, "Hey man, I need you to help me." And he would tell you, "Hey man, it's not the right time." And then you reply back and be like, "But you said you'd always be there for me. You said you'd be there." You know, but what's funny is that the friend would tell him, the person barging in, that "You're right. I did tell you that I would always be there. It's just right now is not the right time. I'll be there after me and my wife finish talking." So here, this is a real example of a confusing a statement of availability versus meeting the demands of the position and the location. But if you always meet the position of the location and the condition, then it's always the right time, right? Then your friend's always there, isn't he? Your friend's always there. Your friend's always available, like he said he was like he said he would be. So it's that's the sort of like reproofing of the fact that there is always a right time. Um, what we really need to talk about is timing. Let me see. T, and you say, and that right timing can come again and again, law in the case of kissing if you mastered it. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Actually, I think repetition, like successful repetition, is actually a perfect example of right time and timing becoming in sync with each other. It's only when right time and timing sort of like have a discrepancy that we notice that we messed up. Basically, we discovered that it was the wrong time to do said action, because we weren't paying attention to the the position and the condition for what was being demanded. And it's very possible that even there's certain circumstances where we don't even know what's being demanded until we fail, and then we start realizing like, okay, now I can set up the condition and the position to meet the demand, which then now this becomes available to me. But really, um, what becomes available to you has always been available to you, basically. You know, um, I think another example I can give is just like, you know, imagine when your parents sort of like hang something up high, um, like I don't know, maybe on a hook or something, like a key. They hang it up really high. They know that you can't get it, right? They know that you can't reach the key, so that's why they're confident and sort of like leaving it in a higher place because. And what's ironic about this whole position is that actually the key's available to you. The only reason why you think the key's not available to you is because you feel like you can't meet the conditions to take said key. Like you're not tall enough to reach it. Um, but if you set up the condition and the position for it, for example, if you take like a ladder or you take like a stool, then perhaps you can take the key. But it doesn't negate or it doesn't do away with the fact that the key was always available to you. that it was technically always the right time to take the key. The problem was you never had the right position and condition. So in essence, it would be the wrong timing to take the key because you're not tall enough, or you haven't come up with a solution to sort of remedy the fact that you're not tall enough to reach the key. But in essence, the key is always available. So that's why time, the notion of right time is, always apparent. It's timing that makes us really access what is available. And that would be sort of meeting the conditions. Let me see. T says to master, to convert the right time into right timing. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be basically it. I mean, that would be sort of like the skill. So timing becomes actually more of a skill, really, because the right time is always available. Boys, you get the key, mom and dad will shout, "How the hell did you get the kid get it?" Yeah, exactly. That's perfectly right. But yeah, I think that's it. I think I expounded what I want to say between that. Um, so yeah, there's this discrepancy between time and timing is really what it's going to come down to. Time and timing. Where we realize that timing is more of a skill, meeting your position and condition, and also acknowledging what is being demanded. So it's going to take us a lot of self-awareness of our own position and condition to cultivate timing, because the right time is always happening. But do we meet the conditions of the right time? Has to do with timing. So I think that's probably a more fruitful way to think about the difference between the two. All right. I think that's it. All right. You guys take care. Thanks for watching.